Anthony Davis will miss his fourth game in a row tonight against the Hornets, and the team says today Davis will be out indefinitely with a stress injury in his right foot. Bengals tight end Hayden Hurst will miss his third game in a row tomorrow with a right calf injury. Cincinnati is on the road to play the Patriots. The Cowboys host the Eagles tomorrow. And ESPN's Brian Clark believes the Cowboys' success shouldn't be all about Dak Prescott.
And how it changes, depending upon which relative is listening. My most delightful moments are the family get-togethers. We prepare the entire season for the celebration of the birth of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Hear the stories, feel the excitement, and be a part of His family get-togethers. Attend church services of your choice. Listen to the messages. Jesus will guide you. And for our friends and family in nursing homes and retirement villages, attend your weekly prayer services. Jesus welcomes you to His house, and He's been expecting you. Merry Christmas.
Prairie Garden's famous Christmas clearance sale is going on now. Save on all the cool Christmas decor you really wanted. Ornaments and Christmas accents are up to 60% off. Up to 60% off Christmas trees, wreaths, and garlands.
Take problems
Save 50 to 60% on Christmas cards, candles, ribbon, and Christmas flowers. Hurry in for the best selection and the greatest savings. Prairie Garden's famous Christmas clearance sale. Going on now. Springfield and Duncan, Champaign.
Sure, we offer push-button mortgage applications, but when it comes to getting the money for the house of your dreams, we offer something far more advanced, and we call her Brenda, a real person who knows you better than any app, and works hard to make things simple, cutting through red tape, meeting you outside the office, and in between life's busy moments for a great rate and a great deal. Call Brenda at Iroquois Federal Champaign and let her help you get home. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 472172.
Hi, this is Kirk Lehman with Aftershock Decals and Design. And right now we're looking for an honest, hardworking
because really there's no other way to put it, right?
With
and I flipped it because at the beginning of Kingsman Carlin today, I said, listen, Zach Wilson is going to get a bunch of this hatred.
No, not that kind of rapper.
We're going to talk about Robert Saleh, what direction they go. We're going to get your
Please go to our website at
AftershockDD.com.
aftershockdd.com, click on the Jobs tab, and send in your resume. We want you. AftershockDD.com.
If you're looking for a new car, go to Sarah Champagne, because at Sarah Subaru, they have over 100 new Subarus available right now, all with symmetrical all-wheel drive. The Subaru Share the Love event is on, too. With every new Subaru purchased or leased through January 3rd, Subaru will donate $250 to your choice of charities. Sarah Subaru will also donate an additional $50 to the Champaign County Humane Society right here in our community. Visit Sarah Subaru right off Route 45 in Savoy.
Want unbeatable prices on your next furniture purchase, but also seeking that local hometown feel? Look no further than Kelsey Furniture in Tuscola. Customers rave about their friendly, established staff, as well as their great selection, amazing prices, and second-to-none delivery service. They're a third-generation local business, and they've always got your best interests at heart. Find the look you love for less. Open 9 to 5 Monday through Saturday, but always available online at kelseyfurniture.com. That's kelseyfurniture.com.
The alpha male in that locker room, which is something that Zach Wilson is not, and probably has not been in the Jets locker room, despite flying his entire offense, flying scooters or mopeds or whatever bikes. This week, didn't seem to work out a whole lot.
Number 20, Ty Rogers. Number 0, Terrence
but on the flip side of it, again, you see it. The way that the Jags have come together, and it's been about, I want to say, week 8 or week 9. Okay, 70% of his passes, 14 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's playing as
Magical
good a football
gifts
as
have arrived at Merle Norman. Head to your holiday shopping headquarters for prestige skincare and makeup favorites, pre-boxed and ready to give. Shop magical gift sets for lips, cheeks, and skin while supplies last. Choose from 3 lip sets featuring plush lipstick and lip liner duos, a 4-piece set for cheeks, and a curation of self-care favorites for ageless skin. Magical gifts are available for a limited time only at Merle Norman, 706 West Market View Drive, over by Subway.
PDR Automotive in Urbana is a locally owned repair shop, and they've now serviced over 250,000 vehicles in their near 50-year history. Now, that's more than 4 times the size of a sold-out Memorial Stadium. It's more than all Division I athletes in the country combined. That's more than the entire population of Champaign County. That's more than, well, you get the idea. When you turn the key and the car won't run, call 367-9481. They are what's best for your truck or car.
We'll see when Mike White can come
PDR.
back.
Hey, Illini fans, it's Max Keller. Catch Ron Tay and Derek Piper weekdays from 4 to 6.
Al Michaels didn't even know how to pronounce the guy's name. Al Michaels is one of the best of all time. No one expected Chris Streveler to come in the game. This is a guy who came in from the CFL. He's a Grey Cup champion, and you've got a CFL. The guy was a CFL backup, by the way, the year they won the championship for most of the season. I did my Wikipedia Chris Streveler research before the show, clearly. They go with Chris Streveler. You get the old Bronx cheer in East Rutherford, New Jersey, when Streveler comes in and completes like a 4-yard pass.
Right.
Just compare Chris Streveler, a 27-year-old journeyman who's been cut from a couple NFL teams, to the number 2 pick last year, Peter. We're not talking about like year 4. They're trying to decide if they want to pick up the player option on or the team option on, not for. Year 4, they're trying to decide if they want to pick up the player option on or the team option on him or not for the 5th-year quarterback. No, sir. 2 years. And it feels like we already know exactly who Zach Wilson is. And you and I are both college football fans, man. Like, we all knew that Justin Fields was the right pick there, right? Like, this is not a 20/20 hindsight type of thing. And now look at Justin Fields in Chicago.
Well, and I think that's how the game has also changed as well, too. I think some of the concepts that have made the college game that we love a lot over on Saturdays exciting on Sundays is that we've seen a bridge of that style of play a little bit more to the NFL, right? And I never saw it really with Zach Wilson, that spark over at BYU. And, of course, that was back in 2020 where you didn't know really what you were going to get when you started looking at film of these guys. And yet now we know that it's just not going to be the fit. I want to hear from Jets fans how we're feeling right now. 888-SAY-ESPN is the phone number. We go to Virginia. Jordan, thanks for joining us here in Canty and Carlin. What's up, Jordan?
Hey, guys. Appreciate you taking my call. Merry Christmas. Both of my children are still disgusted in the backseat of my car right now after what they saw last night. So we'll start there. So it was rough. Zach Wilson's struggling. He's been struggling. But I want to go back a few weeks to when we beat the Broncos and things were looking great. Breece Hall was a beast. 17 different positions on the O-line and crushed it at each one. And, you know, I think as a quarterback, if you have that in your back pocket and you have a little bit of help with the running game and with your O-line, you know, you're going to look a little bit better. I think Zach only lost 1 game in that span, or, you know, I think they won 3 or 4 games straight.
Right.
So, you know, you look at that and it's, you know, you feel good. And then once he loses those pieces, and especially that New England game where he's just throwing picks left and right, it's hard to bounce back from that, I feel like. And then, you know, especially in the division, and things just kept going downhill. So, yeah, the relationship's done, but I also want to point out that, you know, nobody's saying anything about Joe Douglas. This guy, I like him. He goes out and makes some crazy trades and, you know, get a decent pick for, a 6th-rounder, 7th-rounder. But, I mean, they totally flopped on Zach Wilson.
The question, and Jordan, thank you for the phone call. And again, that's kind of the question that Robert Saleh has to figure out with Joe, with them in that front office as well too. Drew, is like, all right, you got him underneath this rookie contract. You've already paid him this guaranteed contract to come and get at number 2. Is he worth to try to develop, to try to salvage it? Do you put him out here the remainder of the season if Mike White cannot go and can't find the 45th doctor that won't clear him with his ribs, or do you say, you know what? Maybe it's best that we both just go in a different direction. We cut our losses and don't have this sunk cost fallacy.
Nice sunk cost fallacy. Peter Burns, smart guy. That's an educated man right there. Nice economic term dropping in. And I appreciate the call from Jordan. I wish Jordan were more upset. We're looking for real anger. We're looking for real New York anger, because that's what Jets fans should have today. They deserve better than what they got from Zach Wilson.
Give me an example. Give me an example. Like 98.7.
You ruined Christmas. Christmas is done. Thank you, Zach. You suck.
But that's not even anger. I mean, that's like at the 5th stage of grief right there. That's just acceptance. You know, that's just pure sadness. I'm glad you bring up Joe Douglas though, Jordan, because like, we did talk about him a little bit earlier in the show. I feel like Joe Douglas has done a fantastic job with the rest of the roster, and that's why he won't be fired because of the Zach Wilson debacle. I mean, that is a swing and a miss. If you look at biggest draft bust in NFL history, at least a year and change in, dude, PB is the number 2 pick, and they pass on 4 quarterback. They did that. They invest at wide receiver with Wilson and Moore. They invest on the offensive line. They were playing great until Elijah Vera Tucker get hurt. Breece Hall,
yeah.
I know drafting a running back early is not the awesome for the majority of the rookie year until he got hurt.
And Carlin, what's up, Sean?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Doing great.
Good. Hey, listen, I'm a lifelong Jets fan, man, and there's certainly been a lot of dysfunction, and I think the guy has done a really, really good job. But after this pick with Darnold. Long Jets fan, man, and there's certainly been a lot of dysfunction, and I think the guy has done a really, really good job. But absolutely, he missed his pick. I mean, with Darnold, listen, we didn't have the line, we didn't have the weapons. You didn't really know. He was kind of in that quarterback purgatory, right? When we hit on all these other picks, outside of Mekhi Becton, and man, we're sitting pretty right now.
That's interesting you say that, because I forgot about that. Wasn't that one of the situations, 2 years ago, where the Jets just stumbled into a win late into the year, and people are like, what in the hell did you just do? In Jacksonville, season ticket office sellers were just like, holy hell. It was like when the Pelicans landed Zion, they're going crazy. Again, stuff like that matters for generational talent. We talk about fit all the time. You also got to get lucky. It never felt that it was lucky with Trevor Lawrence. It felt like it was just the future that was coming out.
I'm looking back at the Jets schedule in 2020, and they won 2 of their last 3. Week 15, week 16, go to LA, beat the Rams, and then beat the Browns the next week. So 2 straight wins, and that's why they lost out on Trevor Lawrence. Look where we are today. I mean, the dichotomy between those 2 guys last night, if you're a Jets fan, you have to be pulling your hair out. If you're Fireman Ed, you have to be taking your hat off and throwing it right into the grass at MetLife Stadium. And it's not just Trevor Lawrence, man. It's Justin Fields, who you could have drafted. And I think a lot of people who follow college football were saying, what are we doing? Justin Fields, not the guy here. And it seems like that would have been the right pick.
A college quarterback that has made the transition awfully well is one Dak Prescott, but does he have enough to beat Minshew Mania? We'll discuss that breakdown coming up next. Canty and Carlin on ESPN Radio.
Zach Wilson sucks. He ruined Christmas. Christmas is done. Thank you, Zach. You suck.
A Christmas Day NBA doubleheader. Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks head to Boston to face the Celtics. Then in San Francisco, Klay Thompson and the Warriors welcome John Morant and the Grizzlies. Coverage begins at 4:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPN, and on ABC.
Nobody protects you from mayhem like Allstate. I'm your game day face paint, and you just rubbed me right into your eye. Now your vision is super irritated. So is that driver you just hit. And if you have cut rate car insurance, these damages will rob you blind. So switch to Allstate, save $744, and get protected from mayhem like me.
Average annual savings of new customers surveyed in 2021 who reported auto savings when switching to Allstate. In most states, prices vary based on how you buy. Subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Peacock presents the new original limited series, The Best Man, the final chapters, from the creator of The Best Man and The Best Man Holiday, and executive producer of Insecure. The series reunites the original cast to wrap up all the unfinished business, with new loves, career highs, parenthood, grief, and everything in between. The series explores what threatens to tear us down, and what ultimately keeps us together. The Best Man, the final chapters, streaming now, only on Peacock.
Prairie Gardens' famous Christmas clearance sale is going on now. Save on all the cool Christmas decor you really wanted. Ornaments and Christmas accents are up to 60% off. Up to 60% off Christmas trees, wreaths, and garlands. Save 50 to 60% on Christmas cards, candles, ribbon, and Christmas florals. Hurry in for the best selection and the greatest savings. Prairie Garden's famous Christmas clearance sale. Going on now. Springfield and Duncan, Champaign.
Like most banks, we offer an app that lets you do pretty much everything you need from your pocket. But at Iroquois Federal, we believe great banking is less about the app you tap and more about what you tap into. And for us, that's a hometown bank where decisions are made locally by the same folks you'll bump into on the bleachers at the next big game, providing the hometown touch that's made us part of the community for nearly 140 years. Iroquois Federal. Still friendly, still local, still here. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hi, this is Chris Jackson with Kramer Siding and Window. And whatever your project, you can count on Kramer Siding to offer you the best products backed by the best warranties in the business, as well as Central Illinois employees dedicated to providing you with professional installation and a lifetime of great customer service. And right now, you can save 10% on roofing, sunrooms, and decks, get 15% off gutter helmet, and you can save 25% on preservation siding, windows, and doors. So call today or visit us at kramersiding.com and let's get started on your project.
When you're buying a battery, it's important to look beyond just the price and make sure you're buying a quality battery. So when you're buying one from the big box store, make sure you ask the question, what's the date on this battery? Is it dependable? Sometimes the big box stores have batteries that have been sitting on the shelf for years. Or you can just come to Interstate Batteries, outrageously dependable, and buy your battery from the people who only do batteries. Interstate Batteries at 2504 North Madison, Champaign, way out there, but totally worth the drive. How much is dependable worth to you? Interstate Batteries open 6 days a week. And now a poem from John Marshall, owner of PDR Automotive on Cunningham in Urbana.
It was a week before Christmas, Dad shaking his head, for he had just realized the car's battery was dead. I heard him exclaim that the car would not run, so he was going to call 367-9481. Quick as a flash, and after the tow, all that remained were tracks in the snow. Finally, the phone rings, and I hear such a chatter. It was the folks at PDR telling Dad what was the matter. They put in a new battery, now it's charging just right. The oil was good, and that wheels were all tight. I could not hear the last words that they said, only my father's yes. He would keep Christ in Christmas, smiling while nodding his head.
For all your automotive needs, contact PDR Automotive at 367-9481. That's 217-367-9481. Or visit their website, pdrauto.com. That's pdrauto.com.
Hi, it's Stevie J. Start your day with me along with Diane Ducey, weekday morning 7 to 9, here on ESPN Radio 93.5.
Hardship. You can now be free of IRS collection efforts by taking advantage of a special IRS tax hardship program. This program allows Americans who owe the IRS to resolve their delinquent tax debt once and for all. In some cases, maybe even reducing what you owe significantly. An open phone line has been established by Community Tax for consumers to call and see if they qualify. Simply dial 800-249-2509. If you owe back taxes to the IRS and cannot afford to pay them back or have years of unfiled tax returns, help is standing by. Just call the Community Tax Helpline today at 800-249-2509 for the help that you need. Don't take on the IRS alone. They can attack your wages, savings, pension, home, and even your Social Security check. Call 800-249-2509 to see if you qualify. That's 800-249-2509.
Excited to get out there, unfortunate circumstances, obviously, it's been great watching everything Jalen's been doing this year. I feel like
talking a little trash, and then of course Hurts gets injured in the game before. Even Gardner Minshew, a weird week for him. Drew, is earlier in the week he spoke at the late great Mike Leach's funeral over on Tuesday, and just really just an eloquent young character, right? And a guy that has earned a lot of respect. And I feel like the word respect is thrown around a lot, but we see how it plays into games. We saw how it plays into the Jets season so far with Zach Wilson. And I think this Eagles team, top to bottom, has a lot of respect for Jalen Hurts, but I also think they have a lot of respect for Gardner Minshew and the success and kind of the skins on the wall he has right now.
Right. I mean, Gardner Minshew, best backup quarterback in the NFL? Probably. I think a lot of people would say that. I think he could start for a lot of NFL teams. I think a lot of Jets fans would say if we had Gardner Minshew right now, we'd be a lot better off. Like, if Gardner Minshew started for the Jets for the entire season, I think they'd probably have 2 or 3 more wins, right? I mean, like, Gardner Minshew is good. When he was playing as a rookie for the Jags, he was average in the NFL in a lot of statistics, and I feel like for a guy who was a 6th-round pick, going to Jacksonville, who had no expectations, he had a long, winding road in college, playing at 3 schools before it was cool. Gardner Minshew, like, he is a guy who, you're right, PB, commands respect. The only thing I don't like about playing the soundbite on the radio is it's better on TV because you get to see Gardner Minshew and the
lovely
mustache and the locks and the salad. And I love Gardner Minshew, man. I'm a huge fan. With all that being said, I think the Cowboys beat him pretty good this week.
Really?
Games in
all right,
Dallas.
So
I mean,
you have been, because everybody wants to poo-poo the Dallas. Everyone says, okay, this is just like the Dallas Cowboys when they had Tony Romo and Dak can't get them over there and Zeke Elliott. And in fact, before you get into that, I want to hear from Ezekiel Elliott because he talked a little bit about the season expectations on his presser this week. Here's Zeke.
Love making the playoffs, but I'm looking to make a run. I made the playoffs before. I want to make a run. I mean, you can make the playoffs, and we've seen it losing the first round. I know that does not taste good, don't feel good. It's almost worse than not even going to the playoffs. So, I mean, just trying to do whatever we can to get better. The team that this week is, doing what we need to do to and making sure we're ready to put our best foot forward when playoffs come.
Now, Drew, you say that it's not just this week that the Cowboys beat the Eagles. You think, and you're with Zeke, that there's something deeper with this team?
I think so. I think they can win the Super Bowl. And, in fact, right now...
Whoa. Repeat that one more time.
I think they can win the Super Bowl. The Dallas Cowboys. You heard me. I'm not just saying this to be hot take, radio, get a reaction, get some callers. Dr. Pepper call-in line, by the way, 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. I'm not just saying that to be hot take radio guy. I really believe that. You look at the advanced metrics with Dallas. They have a top 3 defense in the NFL pretty much no matter how you slice it. No. Offensively, Dak missed a few games earlier in the year. They're 15th in DVOA, the Football Outsiders metric, which doesn't really look at wins and losses. It's more about margin of victory and overall efficiency on offense and defense. They're 15th in offense, but in terms of raw scoring, I think they lead the league in points per game. They're at least top 3. Ever since Dak came back, they've been scoring a lot of points. I think people are out on the Cowboys because of the last 2 weeks, where they beat the Texans in a game they should have won by more. I get it. But the Texans kind of hang. The Texans hang with a lot of teams. Like, Houston does not get blown out that often. The previous week, they beat the Colts in one of the most embarrassing games for a franchise all season, 54-19. And then they lose at Jacksonville in overtime, and, like, we're all in agreement right now that the Jags are pretty good at the moment. They've won 3 games in a row, and they should win their division. I feel like to jump ship on the Cowboys because of the last 2 weeks is just a little premature. And I really like the makeup of this team with Zeke and Tony Pollard, Gallup getting healthy. I believe in Dak. As crazy as a lot of people think that is, I still believe in Dak. Look at their playoff losses. They've been pretty tight. Like, last year, is it a bad look to let the clock run out on you at home? Yes. But they were still close against a really good 49ers team. And you look at the NFC, last thing I'll say, Peter, yes, the Eagles have been a wagon the entire season, but, dude, we haven't really seen it from Jalen Hurts in the playoffs. I know he's young. I know he's different this year, but, like, they haven't proven anything more with this roster than the Cowboys have.
But the reason why, and listen, I know it's easy for us to talk quarterbacks, and it's easy to talk about Jalen Hurts, who's right there neck and neck, depending on how injured he is with Patrick Mahomes as far as NFL MVP. but it's more of what this defense is doing, right? And that's why this week is so big for Dak. I mean, this is the Eagles defense right now, giving up less than 200 yards a game. Number one pass defense in the country. In the league right now, 15 interceptions. They get after the quarterback. And so for me, I'm not willing to do it because I don't think that Dak can have that type of game that makes me that much of a believer that he can get over that hump. But more so, can you imagine, you think that's going to go through and there are this is a bad fight over and over again for the Dallas Cowboys because I don't trust Dak to not make a mistake. And I know the 2 interceptions last week were more of a drop pass and really the offensive line letting him down a little bit more. But still, I haven't seen that game. I'm waiting for that game from Dak, but I just haven't seen it yet.
Who in the NFC, though, has shown you that game in the playoffs?
It's a fair point.
Like, I love Hurts, and Hurts is different this year 100%, and they're the favorites, and rightfully so. But Brock Purdy? That's a great roster, but Brock Purdy? I mean, I like Brock Purdy, but are we sure? Like, I think the door is open for Dallas. And really, the reason we're making this pick, if we do, like, say that Dallas has a chance to win the Super Bowl, is we're saying the defense will carry them, Zeke Elliott and Tony Pollard will carry them, and Dak doesn't have to light the world on fire. This is not like a Packers led to the Super Bowl by Aaron Rodgers situation. This is a great roster where Dak just has to not make mistakes, and I know he's done that in the past, and he's not playing really well right now, but I still believe in Dak. He's a guy who's dealt with injuries this season. By the time they get to the playoffs, I'd want to put my money on Dallas.
Can't wait to see, I mean, what the Eagles did with that offensive or defensive front as well, too. How about this? This Eagles defense recorded 6+ sacks in 3 consecutive games, the second longest streak since 1963. Going to be all up on the Cowboys' offensive line to protect Mr. Prescott in that game. He is Drew Carter. I am Peter Burns. Coming up, a rumor that turned into the fact. We'll discuss that coming up next. Canty and Carl on ESPN Radio.
Hi, this is Ryan McGee. This is Marty Smith from Marty and McGee. All of us at ESPN Radio would like to wish you a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year, and a happy
Anyone who has ever needed self-storage knows what a hassle it can be. You have to rent or borrow a truck and then find someone to help you move your stuff. And let's face it, moving furniture and heavy items without damaging them isn't easy. Renting the unit is worse. The hidden fees and admin costs are scarier than the dingy facilities you're leaving your stuff in. Why not use Closet Box instead? Closet Box is self-storage without leaving home. They'll pick up your belongings, store them securely, and bring any item back when you need it. The best part? Unlike traditional self-storage, you only pay for what you store. No paying for unused storage space. Closet Box's background check storage movers are licensed, bonded, and insured and will take care of all of the heavy lifting. Closet Box's local storage centers are temperature controlled and monitored 24/7. Closet Box has an A+ rating from the BBB. Call 877-233-5696 now for the season's best rates. Get $50 off first month storage using code RADIO50. That's 877-233-5696. 877-233-5696.
What does the Apple Dumpling Restaurant offer?
The Apple Dumpling serves up homemade favorites, fried chicken, sandwiches, delicious chicken and noodles, beef and noodles, and meatloaf as comfort food.
And, of course, the Apple Dumpling with a scoop of ice cream, perhaps.
Visit this community treasure if you're looking for great people, great atmosphere, and great food in Urbana.
The Apple Dumpling Restaurant.
Open Tuesdays through Saturdays with a lunch buffet on Sundays.
On High Cross Road in Urbana.
You can look up the Apple Dumpling on Facebook.
Sure, we offer push-button mortgage applications.
On the first Christmas, baby Jesus was born in a stable because God loves each of us. This Christmas, how can we show God we love Him too? Jesus said we can show our love for God God by loving our neighbor. Let's make God happy this Christmas.
This is Jim Manley. Throughout this year that's been tough for so many, Empty Tomb Inc. has worked with church people to show their love for God through practical works done in Jesus' name. Clothes, food, furniture, and financial help are shared at our local neighbors' points of need. In addition, Research and Mission Match encourage churches to help our neighbors globally too. Your gift to Empty Tomb now will help people in our local area at their points of need all through the new year. Please send your check to Empty Tomb in Champaign, Illinois, or go to emptytomb.org to donate. Thank you.
Merry Christmas, baby Jesus.
And Merry Christmas to you too.
Hi, it's Stevie J. Sit back and relax and take the drive with Long Tay and Derek Piper. Weekdays 4 to 6 right here on ESPN Radio 93.5.
Shows and sports. It's a beautiful time for basketball.
It's the NBA on Christmas Day. I'ma take my shot and make it fade away. Christmas gift away.
Giannis leads the Milwaukee Bucks into Boston to face Jason Tatum and the Celtics. Then in San Francisco, Klay Thompson and the Warriors welcome Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies. Coverage of the Bucks and Celtics begins at 4:30 Eastern, followed by the Grizzlies and Warriors. Christmas Day on ESPN Radio, ESPN.
Headlines and hot takes, they have their place. But at our podcast, ESPN Daily, we don't just skim the surface of sports. Dude, I mean, this clearly transcends blood feuds, rivalries, sports. This is something far, far deeper than that. I'm your host, Pablo Torre, and every day we try to dive into the stories behind the athletes.
The picture of him in the dugout afterwards just looked like a guy who'd had his heart ripped out.
Listen to ESPN Daily wherever you get your podcasts.
Max.
This was an evaluation for the New York Giants. This was not a,
You get your podcasts.
Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max.
This was an evaluation year for the New York Giants. This was not a, we're going to the playoffs. This was a straight-up evaluation year, and now they find themselves knocking on the door of getting into the playoffs, and at the same time, they can still have an evaluation year and evaluate the talent that they want to bring back into 20.
New Year's Eve at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN. You can also listen on the ESPN app and on your smart speaker. This is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. Anthony Davis of the Lakers will be out indefinitely with a stress injury in his right foot. Davis got hurt last week against the Nuggets. ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski reports there is still hope that Davis can avoid surgery. Woj also reports the Hornets are getting closer on a new contract with forward Miles Bridges. If he signs, Bridges will likely have to start serving an expected suspension from a domestic violence case. Bridges hasn't played since last season. The marquee game tomorrow in the NFL, the Eagles and Cowboys in Arlington. For the Eagles, quarterback Jalen Hurts out with a right shoulder injury, so Gardner Minshew is in.
Circumstances, obviously, it's been great watching everything Jalen's been doing this year. I feel like I've learned a lot from him. We got a lot of great dudes on this team, and they've really done a good job of making me feel comfortable and, getting me up to speed.
Gardner Minshew, Illinois running back Chase not play against Mississippi State in the ReliaQuest Bowl. Brown is third in the FBS this year with over 1,600 rushing yards.
Hi, this is Keyshawn Johnson for Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. All of us here at ESPN Radio would like to wish you a happy holiday and a happy new year.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas from our ESPN Radio crew. It's Peter Burns and Drew Carter in for Canty and Carlin on ESPN Radio. Always presented by Progressive Insurance. When you give us a call, you can say ESPN to find one or two extra gifts or a bunch of different gifts, and probably a parking spot as well too. Dude, it was brutal around the Burns household here in Charlotte, like trying to find one spot to go to. Out of control. Out of control.
And if you're driving around listening, just say, "Hey Siri, call ESPN Radio." Don't take your hands off the wheel because it's probably snowing where you are. It's probably cold and safe.
It's all about safe. At some point, you
snowing where you are. It's probably cold and unsafe.
It's all about safety first, right?
It's hands-free.
It's about going and making sure at some point you follow the rules, which it couldn't be any worse for the JETS Jets than losing last night the way they did, right? 19-3. I joked around about how maybe it was some good news because now you know the future is not Zach Wilson, and maybe the future is not their wide receiver coach, Miles Austin. Rich Cimini and Adam Schefter, how this would not be a pretty open and shut case. Like if it gets it to this point, like do you say someone else logged into my account, or I don't know. I don't know how this works. But there's one thing that you don't do around the NFL is mess with their money. Like you can mess with other people. And literally, we've seen that guys get suspected or convicted of things, right? And it's like, all right, well, they'll pay their penance, they'll be back. But if you mess with the NFL's money, they will hold you accountable. There's no doubt about it, Drew. And it's become a cardinal sin, but one, it's a fine line that the NFL kind of tiptoes around with how much gambling is a part of their product now.
It's so true. And something about the wide receivers, right? Because the biggest suspension for gambling, at least in recent history for the NFL, is Calvin Ridley of the Falcons, who we all forget is a pretty good receiver. We haven't seen him at all this year. Hope to see him back on the field next year. But you're right, PB, because it's interesting, and this is what the leagues have always been worried about when it comes to embracing gambling. It's not just the leagues, it's the networks who are airing the games. The leagues, it's the networks who are airing the games. You don't want
I'm doing this. And again, gambling has been around. It was in a different way of fantasy football. And you could easily say why the NFL is such a behemoth the way it is because you can have a Drew NFL is such a behemoth the way it is because you can have a Drew Carter sitting in Minnesota be in his fantasy football finals this week and look at, you care about a guy on the Browns roster. You're caring about what Tua's going to be able to do. Should you start Aaron Rodgers in a monster game? And that was gambling just in a different form. And as the NFL continues to increase the amount of money that they make, both in television and their sponsorships, there was no doubt college programs are getting involved in this right now. But there's one thing that you cannot do is mess with the league's money or mess with the league's quote unquote integrity of the game. That's what they will protect more so than they will protect players, than they will protect spouses, they will protect other people. They kind of care about that because it's an image. But if the image is that you got coaches gambling on games, that is destructive, because then all of a sudden maybe that gambling money goes away, and then the trust factor that the games are on the up and up go away.
Right, and it's not just the NFL. I mean, it's every major sport. We've seen it with Major League Baseball and Pete Rose. You can't do it. It's, like you said, one of the cardinal sins. And I think the gambling discourse has made sports more fun to follow in general. But I do kind of miss the days where we didn't know who was favored and by how much. And like we talk about the Minnesota Vikings, for example, this year, and every week the Vikings are 10-3 or 11-3 or what have you, and favored by like 3 points against the Colts, who are terrible. And you're like, what's up with that line? That's kind of a fishy line, and it's fun to talk about. But I sort of miss the days where we had no idea that
not me. I mean, listen, I'm all in for it, if for no other reason, because that is the talking point, right? That is the idea of going, wait a minute, why do we not believe that? The Texans are a 14-point dog. I didn't know that they were that bad versus what their record actually was. And I think there's information you can glean off of that. Just like people learn how to play or watch football playing Madden on Xbox or PlayStation back in the day.
Right. And what's interesting, too, is you talk about fantasy football. There are a couple NFL players. Most of them say they hate fantasy football and they don't care about your team. Don't tweet at me. Some guys are open about the fact that they play, right? Like Austin Eckler plays, I think, and talks about how he drafts himself and talks about fantasy, and it's a breath of fresh air because he says, hey, for my fantasy owners, like, I'm going to try to score a couple touchdowns for you this week. I'm pretty sure Austin Eckler drafted himself in the first round this year. Hopefully he doesn't have any money. Hopefully there's no buy-in to get in that league, because it sounds like you can get in trouble for that.
Again, the league will put its foot down on anything that they're really, truly worried about, and that's one thing that we also learned so far between Calvin Ridley and now Miles Austin. The news coming out of Jets wide receiver coach, who, by the way, did not coach in the game last night. People were wondering why he was not on the sidelines. There is your answer. Still waiting for
Jacksonville.
That'd be amazing, right? So a large deposit. Yeah, well, listen, we knew Zach was coming in, and we knew Joe Flacco was not going to play any. So
they weren't running any routes. It was weird.
Hammered the Jags at that point. All right, speaking of money, one-star college quarterback denies being offered boatloads of money to leave his school. Are you buying it? Canty and Carlo on ESPN Radio with Peter Burns and Drew Carter moves on.
A Christmas Day NBA doubleheader. Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks head to Boston to face the Celtics. Then in San Francisco, Klay Thompson and the Warriors welcome Ja Morant and the Grizzlies. Coverage begins at 4:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPN, and on ABC.
This is an important notice to all U.S. taxpayers. The IRS is giving away billions of dollars in tax savings through a federal program called the Fresh Start Initiative to aid delinquent taxpayers. This initiative was established for anyone facing financial hardship and unable to pay their back taxes. Qualifying and enrolling in this program will stop all collections, settle your delinquent problem, and even reduce what you owe by thousands of dollars. Call the hotline at People Tax Relief to see if you qualify and get this free information by dialing 800-285-2521. If you have unfiled funds or cannot afford personal or business tax, can now 800-285-2521. If you have unfiled tax returns or cannot afford to pay your personal or business back taxes, you can now get the help you need. One simple phone call can resolve your tax problem and save you thousands of dollars. To see if you qualify and to get this important free information, call 800-285-2521. 800-285-2521. 800-285-2521.
I make the argument that you can't win if your third best player is Tyrese Maxey. Your players are your big man and a little guard. I don't feel like that's a solution to winning. The right time with Bomani Jones.
You can listen or follow on the ESPN app or...
Hey, it's Keyshawn Johnson.
Yo, this is Jay Williams. Hi, this is Max Kellerman from Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. All of us here at ESPN Radio would like to wish you happy holidays.
Happy holidays, a happy holiday, and a happy new year.
We
You're going to Pandora.
The wait is over. Avatar, The Way of Water has arrived. Experience the motion picture event of a generation.
This family is our fortress.
Witness the next chapter of the global phenomenon.
We must protect the people.
From director James Cameron.
This is only the beginning.
Avatar, The Way of Water. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13. Now playing only in theaters. Tickets on sale now. The College Football Playoff on ESPN Radio. The top-ranked, undefeated, defending national champion Georgia Bulldogs head to the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl to face the 11-1 Ohio.
Talk about
Georgia Bulldogs head to the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl to face the 11-1 Ohio State Buckeyes.
Ohio State playing Georgia of the offenses.
Number 2 Michigan versus number 3 TCU. Presented by Dr. Pepper. Coverage begins New Year's Eve at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN. You can also listen on the ESPN app and on your smart speaker. It's a beautiful basketball.
It's the NBA on Christmas Day. My shot at fade. Stacking up these wins like
beautiful time for basketball.
You even know what chopped liver is? An expression. It actually isn't an expression. It is actually a dish. I'm just going to say it. Anyone who knows what I'm just not, for whatever reason, not saying. Chopped liver is Jewish for pate. Do you know what pate is?
No.
So, why am I even talking to you? Most people, I think, have some idea what
Ask
pate
some worldly
is.
person that question. Not me.
Worldly people I have in this. Nuno, you know what pate is, right?
I do.
You know what chopped liver is?
Yes, I'm not a fan of liver.
The point is, there is zero chance, in my opinion, that Jerry Jones has ever eaten it unless once he broke the fast at Robert Kraft's house. Again, the Jews in the room are laughing. No one else has any idea what I'm saying. Nuno, why are the people on this show named Teixeira, Peregrine, and the Tannenbaum, for crying out loud? He would be rolling right now.
Greeny with Mike Greenberg. Wednesday at Eastern on ESPN Radio. Plus, you can watch and listen on the ESPN app.
Peter Burns, Drew Carter on Canty and Carlo on ESPN Radio, always presented by Insurance. Following this developing story right now, Adam Schefter and Rich Cimini had just tweeted just moments ago. We were discussing it. The NFL has suspended Jets receivers coach Miles Austin, yes, the former Dallas Cowboy wide receiver, for violating the league's gambling policy. It is of a year. Now, of course, Miles Austin is going to be appealing that. Now, the nugget that just came out during the commercial break that Schefter is reporting, and so are others, saying there is no indication that Austin bet on NFL games as a coach, but bet on other sports, which still violates the NFL personnel gambling policy. So, just again, could have been World Cup, could have been whatever. I'm always fascinated about this, about Drew, how they knew Miles Austin was betting on anything. Right? They can, if the reports are coming out, they clearly have the information that it wasn't football. Does he plead, hey, man, I didn't know that it could not be other sports?
Right.
We'll
Maybe what happened, PB, is he was using one of the 6 official sports books of the NFL to gamble, and maybe his username was like Miles Austin 11 or something, and they're like, hey, now, that's actually against the rules. Coverage of Miles Austin's suspension for gambling NFL Network brought to you by FanDuel, the official sports book of the NFL. I mean, it is kind of that is in bed with these gamblings. for Gambling next on NFL Network, brought to you by FanDuel, the official sportsbook of the NFL. I mean, it is kind of crazy to see stuff like that with a league that is in bed with these gambling sites. Mm-hmm. But I think during the break you made a good point about why you can't gamble on other sports even if you're in football.
Yeah, I think the reason why is because now you look at it. It's the same thing with college sports, right? They're worried about name, image, and likeness. They're worried about gambling as well, too, because they feel if all of a sudden you got a guy that's gambling on a bunch of games, not necessarily is he what they're worried about is all of a sudden, let's say that you get into the hole and you're $500,000 down, and all of a sudden, are you making decisions because you lost $500,000 betting on the Lakers that Anthony Davis is going to come back healthy and that they were going to make a run and that, you're struggling, right? Or whatever the game may be, they look at this and go, could you be compromised at any point? And, that's one of the reasons why the league is so heavy-handed on that. And, of course, Miles Austin right now, he is kind of blue. He is thinking about he will appeal that, and the NFL says they'll have no further comment. Again, what we're trying to figure out is fact or fiction. Okay, we'll find more about the Miles Austin situation. We're trying to find out more about fact or fiction with what Mac Brown was talking about with Drake May. If you don't know the name, Drake May, star quarterback for the Tar Heels. Here's what Mac Brown had to say earlier this week in a presser.
Drake got offered a lot of money to go to different schools, and it's tampering. It's 100% tampering, but he got offered the money. He decided to stay.
Who were some of the schools that offered Drake May money?
May. Hey, what's up? People are offering that money. And a story that just dropped on ESPN.com, Drake May told Pete Thamel, quote, those rumors weren't really reality. Pitt's coach, Pat Narduzzi, had also said it was $5 million to transfer. Ended up that out there. Quote, I don't know what that was all about. You have to enter the transfer portal to talk to these schools and hear these offers. For me, I think college football is going to turn into a mess. Have to do something. There was nothing to me or my family directly offered from any of these schools. Nothing was said or offered to the Mazes. Thoughts on that, Drew?
Let's go back to one of those sentences in there. Quote, you have to enter the transfer portal to talk to these schools and here's offers. Are we sure? Because it sounds like you don't. Tampering is the big T word in college football right now, and according to Mac Brown, that was happening with his star quarterback. Drake had an amazing season this year. For those who don't know, he was second in the country in total offense per game. Came out of nowhere. He's a freshman. No one even knew if he was going to be their starter until a couple weeks before the season. And then until the last few weeks of the season, he was a Heisman contender, and most people expected him to go to New York. They kind of had the wheels fall off down the stretch. But he had an amazing season. Drake May also, if you recognize the name as it pertains to Carolina sports, his older brother Luke May, a legend, hit a late game-winning shot in the NCAA tournament to help Carolina win a championship. Also, their dad, Mark May, was the starting quarterback in the 80s. So, shouldn't be wasting your time and money on. I think it's Drake May, who bleeds Carolina blue like nobody else, and probably doesn't want to leave. And by the way, I think UNC's funds do. They've got a lot of. May, who bleeds Carolina blue like nobody else, and probably doesn't want to leave. And by the way, I think UNC's NIL fund is doing okay. They've got a lot of alumni, a lot of wealthy alumni who really
cry wolf so many times. If you got receipts, what are they?
Dude,
until
go
then,
ahead.
I really don't want to see them. Until then, you just tell me who the coaches are. And even coach, allegedly, it's not the.
Dude,
until
go
then,
ahead.
I really don't want to see them. Until then, you just tell me who the coaches are. This would nip it in the bud. And even if it's NBA. Drew Carter, Peter Burns, is Canty and Carlin on ESPN Radio.
Who has ever needed self-storage knows what a hassle it can be. You have to rent or borrow a truck and then find and heavy items without damaging them isn't easy. Renting the unit is worse. The hidden fees and admin costs are scarier than the dingy facilities you're leaving your stuff in. Why not use Closet Box instead? Closet Box is self-storage without You'll pick belongings, store them securely, and bring any item back when you need it. The best part? Unlike traditional self-storage, you only pay for what you store. No paying for unused storage space. Closet Box's storage Best part? Unlike traditional self-storage, you only pay for what you store. No paying for unused storage space. Closet Box's background check storage movers are licensed, bonded, and insured and will take care of all of the heavy lifting. Closet Box's local storage centers are temperature controlled and monitored 24/7. Closet Box has an A+ rating from the BBB. Call 877-233-5696 now for the season's best rates. Get $50 off first month storage using code
While Purdue led the way in the Big Ten West. Coverage begins January 2nd at 12:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ABC.
ESPN Films presents This is the South. This is where Rupp laid the foundation for a Big Blue Nation. Where Trish started her ascent to the summit. Down here, one team's hell is another's hog heaven. And a rich history is the dawn of an even brighter future. Larger-than-life characters that transform college basketball forever. This is the SEC, and this is our story. Southern Hoops premieres January 30th, 9 p.m. Eastern on SEC Network.
The College Football Playoff on ESPN Radio. First at the Verbo Fiesta Bowl, third-ranked TCU faces number 2 Michigan. Then at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, fourth-ranked Ohio State versus top-ranked Georgia.
You and we are built for this.
TCU Michigan, followed by Ohio State Georgia. Presented by
Welcome to the College Football Playoff.
Coverage begins New Year's Eve at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN. You can also listen on the ESPN app and on your smart speaker.
This is NBA on Christmas Day. I'ma take my shot and make it fade away.
A Christmas Day NBA doubleheader.
Poked away by Giannis. Could be fun to the rack. Took that Christmas gift away.
Giannis the Bucks into Boston to face Jason Tatum and the Celtics. Then in San Francisco, Klay Thompson and the Warriors welcome Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies. Coverage of the Bucks and Celtics begins at 4:30 Eastern, followed by the Warriors. Christmas Day on ESPN Radio, ESPN, and on ABC.
Zach Wilson, then what are the Jets going to do about this in year 3? Which means that the New York Jets have a lot to deal with and a lot to talk about because you have to keep them.
And I guess it's a good thing that you know now. You have 2 more games against Seattle and Miami to end the season. They're not going to the playoffs. They can already start focusing on how do we salvage this? What is our plan at quarterback in 2023? So I doubt that they'll end up drafting somebody because they've got other needs, and they're not going to have that high of a draft pick where they're going to be getting one of the top quarterbacks, a Bryce Young, a CJ Stroud, and they were already in that position 2 years ago. You cannot go back to the well on that, but you will have a quarterback competition in training camp.
Yo, Pablo Torres here, host of the ESPN Daily Podcast. When you want to go beyond your feed, when you want to get inside the score, when you want to get behind the highlight, there's ESPN Daily. Go deeper into the stories of the moment. Get the exclusive access and insider perspective that only ESPN can give you. ESPN Daily, hosted by Torre. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
At Lowe's, every MVP to us. That's why MVP.
Pablo Torre. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
At Lowe's, every pro is an MVP to us. That's why MVP's Pro Rewards members can earn bonus points on select products and brands like Power Pro, Weehawk, and Valspar. Then redeem your bonus points for exciting rewards.
I'm Doug Brown. The Lakers. The stress injury in his right foot. He'll be evaluated again in 7 to 10 days. The hope is he could be tonight. Hope is he could be back soon after. A top 4 matchup in the NBA West tonight. The Suns host the Grizzlies at 10 Eastern on ESPN. Suns guard Devin Booker out with groin soreness. ESPN has learned Jets wide receivers coach Miles Austin is being suspended for at least a year for violating the league's gambling policy. Austin was gambling on sports, but not losing up on a trade.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Progressive makes money easy and affordable. Get a multi-policy discount by combining your motorcycle, RV, boat, ATV, and more. All your protection in one place. Bundle and save at Progressive.com.
Problems, I feel bad.
And more. All your protection in one place. Bundle and save at Progressive.com.
If you haven't take problems, I feel bad for you, son. I got 99 problems, but a Chris ain't one. Hit this.
Now, from the ESPN studios in New York City, this is Canty and Carlin on ESPN Radio. Countdown to the NBA on Christmas Day.
Drew Carter here. Final out in Carlin on ESPN Radio, presented by Progressive in a little breaking news before. Christmas Day. Peter Burns, Drew Luca, and the Mavericks at 2:30 p.m. over on Christmas Day. Got a firm and fast rule right now. Is there's banned topics when I host. Okay, Drew. Mm-hmm. I don't. Other teams. You can talk about the Nuggets. You can talk about any other squad, what the Bucks are doing, whether the Nets are actually for real, any of this. But unless you're 500 and you're the Lakers, you do not exist in my vocabulary.
So from
Unfair?
this point forward, you will not say the L word for the rest of the show.
You can say it. You want to bring it up? You go ahead. Like, I think that's what's wrong with our industry so much is that we were talking about these teams that don't have the substance. And this is a team that don't have the substance. And sooner or later, if we continue to just go to the well on all of the biggest teams with the biggest stars, we lose what makes the league that good, right? We lose what makes the Grizzlies and Ja Morant solid, even with Phoenix in the run that they've had over the last couple of years. I mean, Celtics and Giannis. I mean, I don't think there's a person that deserves even more credit, as good as he is, than what Giannis has done with Milwaukee. Sure. And I feel like we get so star-studded and so drama-heavy that we forget to lose some of the great stories that keep the sports world rolling.
No doubt, but what I will say, in response to that, PB, is that in today's sports media landscape, you can find great coverage of Nikola Jokic running the pick and roll and passing from the nail. And you can find a breakdown of Bradley Beal and why his $50 million contract is now an albatross for the Wizards and all that stuff. And you can find, hey, Kawhi Leonard's playing tonight. Believe it or not, he's still in the NBA.
In the league, yeah.
I know, right? It's unbelievable. But on big shows, on one particular four-letter network, you might see a lot of talk about the Lakers and the Knicks because those teams move the needle, dude. I'm sorry. I hate to say it, but they move the needle. They have the most fans and the most annoying fans, and they move the needle.
They do. And again, there are I struggle with it because it's like with anything. If you're going to talk, people say, oh, we love college football. We love college football. Well, how much are you talking about Louisiana Tech? Or how much are you talking about the Raging Cajuns right now as they're playing Houston with 6 minutes to go in the Independence Bowl? That game is knotted up. Are you talking about Dana Holgerson's Houston Cougars? Probably not. But are we talking about Ryan Day on being on the hot seat because he's lost 2 years in a row to Jim Harbaugh? Probably, because it does move the needle. Not say it's right or wrong. It's just the way that it is in our industry. NBA doubleheader Sunday. We have Celtics and the Bucks getting a little bit of that love, followed by Grizzlies and Warriors. Coverage begins 4:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. All right. With that being said, if you could go, if I give you the private jet, the Woj bomb jet, and you can go to any one of those games coming up on Christmas Day, which one you taking and why?
It ain't Lakers Mavs. That's for sure. Even though Woj says Anthony Davis could be back sooner than expected, which, if you follow Anthony Davis's career, sooner than expected is just basically playing at all the rest of the season. He's a guy who earned the nickname Street Clothes on Inside the NBA over on TNT. And with a foot injury for a big man, you don't expect him to be back very soon. Certainly love watching him play and certainly hope he's back soon, but it's not Lakers Mavs. The one that jumps out is Bucks Celtics, just because those might be the two best teams in the NBA. The one that I would want to watch the most, though, if I could go anywhere, would be Suns at Nuggets, provided I could fly into the Denver International Airport and not make eye contact with that creepy horse statue out in front. Apparently, weather in Denver right now is not optimal. But Suns at Nuggets because I want to see Nikola Jokic in person. The other night, Peter, he had 40, 27, and 10. Folks, 40 points, 27 rebounds, 10 assists. Only other guy ever to do that is Wilt Chamberlain, who I think did it like 7 times. Because, well, I'd want to see Suns at Nuggets because other guy ever to do that is Wilt Chamberlain, who I think did it like 7 times because he's Wilt. I'd want to see Suns at Nuggets because that could also be a preview of the Western Conference Finals. Where are you going if you have a ticket?
Listen, I used to live 5 blocks away from the Pepsi Center, or what it was called. Now it's called Ball Arena. Be able to go see some of those Nuggets games back in the Ty Lawson, even hell, Carmelo Anthony was
Ty
there.
Lawson.
Way back in the day, right? And so, and I've at least once.
Sure.
And I think Ja's starting to get into that list. Right? Like, I saw Joe Burrow play at LSU. It was as awesome as I thought it was going to be. I saw, listen, I've seen Manning when he was over with the Broncos. That was fun as hell. Ja, up close and personal, it feels like it's different. And it feels like that's becoming a must-see ticket in the NBA.
Absolutely. And it's mostly because of his style of play. And the guy, I think, is exciting because he legitimately looks like he could break every bone in his body every time he jumps because he's up that high and he's contorting himself in ways that don't seem humanly possible. The Grizzlies and the Nuggets are both in the top 4 of the West right now. They're both having amazing seasons. I mean, for me, as a guy with zero athleticism, that guy for me is Nikola Jokic. Because Jokic is like Ja is incredible, and he is very skilled, obviously, but the athleticism is what wows you. With Jokic, the skill is what wows you. He is like your dude at the local Lifetime Fitness who's 50 years old and 50 pounds overweight, but he still gives you buckets because he's so skilled and so savvy.
Is he Buddy the Elf? Is he Buddy the Elf? Is that who he might be as far as, like, if we're casting Christmas sports characters? Is he Buddy the Elf, where it doesn't look like he's going to be one of the most dominant guys, and yet he is?
Right, like Buddy the Elf on the snowball field, where he's just lighting kids up. Yeah.
Dominating it, and you're like, I guess maybe you would think that he would dominate because of Buddy the Elf's size, which, by the way, I mean, Buddy the Elf in a snowball fight, -7.5. Take the points. So seriously.
Suspend this man. Somebody suspend this guy for a year, at least a year, indefinitely. My Buddy the Elf, Zach Edey of Purdue. Outsize, looks way bigger than his peers, but is effective. So, like, doesn't really fit in, kind of a misfit, right? Like Buddy the Elf, obviously not an elf, doesn't really fit in New York City either. But when you get him in his element, Zach Edey, probably the front runner for National Player of the Year right now, and Buddy the Elf, as we've said, dominates in snowball fights. So I like Zach Edey as my Buddy the Elf.
There it is, and you'll be able to see that Buddy the Elf coming up as they start getting into Big Ten Conference play soon enough. This weekend preview brought to you by Geico. Switch to Geico today and see all the ways you can save. We'll continue to cast the sports Christmas character list. I need Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. What other characters? I need a Cousin Eddie.
Yeah, Ebenezer Scrooge.
Okay, the Grinch. That's a decent one. You can help us as well, too, in the Dr. Pepper call-in line, 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. We'll bring that up. Also, a little NFL weather, how it's going to force its hand for a lot of teams this weekend. Drew Carter, Peter Burns, this is Canty and Carlo on ESPN Radio.
Countdown to the NBA on Christmas Day.
Christmas is my favorite time of year.
5 consecutive games on ESPN and ABC beginning at noon Eastern, and an ESPN Radio doubleheader at 4:30 Eastern. The Bucks and Celtics followed by the Grizzlies and Warriors. The NBA on Christmas Day on ESPN Radio.
Christmas is here, and it's my favorite time of year.
Do you have 3 ex-wives and your current trophy wife wants a life insurance policy 3 times the size of the policies you had to purchase for your previous mistakes? If so, you need to call Big Lou at Term Provider, 800-511-3535. Big Lou is intimately familiar with your problems, and if you're 50 or 60 years old and in reasonably good health, a $1 million policy should only cost about $100 to $200 per month. Big Lou may have a solution for your previous policies as well. You may even save enough money to lighten the load on your new $1 million policy. Remember, call Big Lou. He's like you, except he's only on number 2. Call Term Provider, 800-511-3535. That's 800-511-3535. For $1 million in term life insurance that you can live with, call Big Lou at 800-511-3535.
If you're looking for a new car, go to Sarah Champagne, because at Sarah Subaru, they have over 100 new Subarus available right now, all with symmetrical all-wheel drive. The Subaru Share the Love event is on, too. With every new Subaru purchased or leased through January 3rd, Subaru will donate $250 to your choice of charities. Sarah Subaru will also donate an additional $50 to the Champaign County Humane Society right here in our community. Visit Sarah Subaru right off Route 45 in Savoy.
At Lifeline Connect, a residential recovery center for men in Urbana, we believe there's no such thing as a lost cause. As you donate to Funding the Dream, you'll be giving to a safe place where men can experience recovery while discovering God's purpose for their lives. Lifeline Connect is a Christian, faith-based solution to life-controlling drug and alcohol addictions. Help with the mission to rebuild lives, and as you visit lifelineconnect.org. At Lifeline Connect, a residential recovery center for men in Urbana, we believe there is no such thing as a lost cause. As you donate at Lifeline Connect, a residential recovery center for men, at Lifeline Connect, a residential recovery center for men in Urbana, we believe there is no such thing as a lost cause. As you donate to Funding the Dream, you'll be giving to a safe place where men can experience recovery while pursuing God's purpose for their lives. Lifeline Connect is a Christian, faith-based solution to life-controlling drug and alcohol addictions. Help with the mission to rebuild lives as you visit lifelineconnect.org. Thank you.
Hi, this is Chris Jackson with Kramer Siding and Window, and we're proud to be your choice for the 2021 People's Choice Awards for the third year in a row. We want to say thank you by offering buy one, get one 50% off on all windows. And you can save 10% on roofing, sunrooms, and decks. So call today or visit us at kramersiding.com. And remember, at Kramer Siding and Window, you have a friend in the business.
Hey, could you tell me what aisle your car batteries are in?
Sure, I'll go grab one for you. Here's your battery. It might be expired, but oh well. Also, the brand isn't that great, but it should work for at least a year or two, maybe. Anyways, I went ahead and charged you for it, and here's the battery. Okay, have a great day.
What just happened?
Sometimes good things are hard to find, but they're worth the wait. Make the trip out to Interstate All Battery Center at 2504 North Mattis Avenue and get all of your battery needs taken care of by the trusted professionals. Give them a call today at 355-4855.
Give us your best shot and enter the 2023 Best in Show Photographic Print Competition. Urbana Park District and the Champaign County Camera Club are putting on the 22nd annual competition. This is a great opportunity to have amateur photographers to enter a contest and have their photos judged. The photos will be on display at Lincoln Square from February 5th through the 12th. For more information, please call Janet at the Urbana Park District at 217-384-4062. Learn more at urbanaparks.org.
PDR Automotive in Urbana is a locally owned repair shop, and they've now serviced over 250,000 vehicles in their near 50-year history. Now, that's more than 4 times the size of a sold-out Memorial Stadium. It's more than all Division I athletes in the country combined. That's more than the entire population of Champaign County. That's more than, well, you get the idea. When you turn the key and the car won't run, call 367-9481. They are what's best for your truck or car. They are PDR.
Hi, it's Stevie J. Sit back and relax and take the drive with Lonte and Derek Piper. Weekdays 4 to 6 right here on ESPN Radio 93.5.
Tax returns. Help is standing by. Just call the Community Tax Helpline today at 800-249-2509 for the help that you need. Don't take on the IRS alone. They can attack your wages, savings, pension, home, and even your Social Security check. Call 800-249-2509 to see if you qualify. That's 800-249-2509.
Weather outside is frightful, but the fire is so
It looks cold. As Michael Irvin once tweeted, man, when we played that cold weather game, it was cold. I think it was something along those lines. Remember that tweet from Michael Irvin? Man, when we played the cold weather, we was cold. It looks cold in the Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl over on ESPN right now. Hell of a ball game, actually. The Ragin' Cajuns. Billy Napier's former squad have the ball. Or actually, no, Houston's driving right now with 2 minutes to go, tied at 16. There it is in the Independence Bowl. It looks awfully cold right there in Shreveport, Louisiana. This is Peter Burns and Drew Carter in for Canty Carlin on ESPN Radio. We've been talking a lot about the Jets and the Jags game coming up on Thursday night. And finally, at the end of the season, we get some games with a little bit of a pizzazz around it. We were trying to figure out what was the future of Zach Wilson, which led to some great phone calls earlier today from Jets fans giving us what they really thought. Now, we got a longer one and we have a shorter one. I want to play the longer one here real quick about how Jets fans were taking the loss last night.
Hey, guys. Listen, I'm a grown man here on 3 hours of sleep, okay, driving in a typhoon right now, trying to get to work. and I really am. I'm embarrassed. This team was embarrassing last night. They were ill-prepared. They were out-coached. Zach was terrible. The organization should be ashamed of themselves. They really, really should.
Well, what they tell you, Drew, in radio, you want to be succinct, right? You want to be quick and to the point. I think the second caller on 98.7 ESPN New York really kind of just personified that.
Zach Wilson sucks. He ruined Christmas. Christmas is done. Thank you, Zach. Suck.
Now, we've had some great guests today. Hall of Famer, or future Hall of Famer, Joe Thomas of the Cleveland Browns. We had Herm Edwards, legend.
Peyton Manning in the playoffs. I remember sitting through the rain to watch a Brett Favre start. Nice. I remember going absolutely nuts when the Jets traded up for Mark Sanchez.
That is, if nothing else, that personifies Jets fans right there.
Okay, so how are we feeling? Like, I need to hear a voice that on the other side of this of how we truly feel with Zach Wilson, what transpired last night.
In a word, dejected. I can't do it anymore. I used to be a big Zach Wilson fan. Everyone in this room knows it. I had a picture on my phone of me and Wilson together, have a signed football of him, have a signed picture of Wilson and I in my bedroom at my parents' house. I want to throw all that stuff out now. I want to burn my Zach Wilson shirt.
Burn it, Jacob.
I can't do it anymore, guys. This was a playoff year. They were going to be in the playoffs and snap the longest playoff drought in the NFL. And the spoiled brat out of BYU has to ruin it.
I thought he was your friend.
No, he's not. He's my enemy. He's my enemy. Anyone who ruins the Jets is my enemy. I'm done. I cannot support Zach Wilson anymore. Get him off the team next year. I don't care how you do it. I want someone else. Start quarterback next year. I'd even take Joe Namath over Zach Wilson at this point.
The Joe Namath in his prime, or the Joe Namath who does infomercials now on the
Joe
side?
Namath now.
He looks spry.
Bring in Al Doro from the New York Titans. He'd do a better job than this joker.
Okay.
Let's get Y.A. Tittle under
if
center.
If we can get that. Vince Testaverde's not walking through that door any longer. Thank you. When it comes to angry phone callers or angry PAs, power of the PA. I will say this. When it comes to angry phone callers or angry PAs talking about their favorite team, I do think the power rankings might be Jets 1, followed by, I don't even want to say Patriots 2, because but just something.
Spoiled.
I think Red Sox. Like, Red Sox fans are upset right now because they don't feel like the front office is really, going to the mattresses as far as, a hot stove and who they're signing right now. I feel like power rankings, Eagles fans are pretty high out there when they're upset. And they haven't had a lot of reason to be upset this season so far with how well they're playing.
Right.
Jets fans, I still am impressed with the passion of Jets fans they've been beaten down for so long, yet they still have it, right? That they still, I at least admire that.
There's something very admirable, yes, about a quarterback who basically everyone else in America had already written off in Zach Wilson, that he can still inspire that kind of emotion from Jets fans. Says a whole lot. Yeah. Says a whole lot about Jets fans. Now, I'll give you probably the least entertaining city for sports callers. That'd be Minneapolis, Minnesota, where if Zach Wilson played for the Vikings and had a game like last night's, the callers would probably say, "Oh, geez, Zach, he's doing his best out there. It was a little chilly, but I still like the guy. I still give him a chance." So,
all joking aside, you say that, and it is they're some of the nicest fans out there. That's a place where I almost feel like, all right, if you got a stable quarterback situation, and you have a market that's not going to rip you to shreds like New York City can do to people or New Jersey can do to people, that I don't think Zach's NFL career by any means is over. I think there can be a Zach Wilson 2.0. I don't believe there can be a Zach Wilson 2.0 on the Jets, in that market, on that team, with that front office, with that locker room. But do I think that the important part of Zach Wilson, not so much the play, but how to handle himself as QB1?
And we heard two words there, talking about how to handle yourself from a personality perspective. Spoiled brat. Those were the two words we just heard in that latest rant from a Jets fan. Zach Wilson has not done himself any favors with how he's handled himself, at least publicly. right? I mean, and specifically the press conference where someone asked him point blank, do you guys feel like you let the defense down today after the defense played great, offense couldn't score enough to win? And he said no. It was a one-word answer, and he said no. You compare that to other quarterbacks where even if you don't feel like you let the defense down, you still say it. You accept blame and deflect praise. And Zach Wilson, now listen, I ask everyone at home, everyone in the car listening right now, what were you like at 23, 24? Were you in a position to be a leader of a bunch of people who are mostly older than you are? Probably not. But that's what comes with being a quarterback in the NFL and being the number 2 pick.
Steve in Long Island, Luciano in California, Jared in Kansas. Hang tight. We'll take more of your phone calls and more of your tweets as well. This is Peter Burns, Drew Carter, in for Canty and Carlin on ESPN Radio, always presented by Progressive Insurance.
Perfectly. You have the reigning champs, Georgia, Michigan trying to redeem themselves after getting embarrassed last year. TCU, best story in all of college football. And in Ohio State, they had all the weapons to go out and beat a Georgia team that's been dominant.
The College Football Playoff. Coverage begins New Year's Eve at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN.
Anyone who has ever needed self-storage knows what a hassle it can be. You have to rent or borrow a truck and then find someone to help you move your stuff. And let's face it, moving furniture and heavy items without damaging them isn't easy. Renting the unit is worse. The hidden fees and admin costs are scarier than the dingy facilities you're leaving your stuff in. Why not use ClosetBox instead? ClosetBox is self-storage without leaving home. They'll pick up your belongings, store them securely, and bring any item back when you need it. The best part? Unlike traditional self-storage, you only pay for what you store. No paying for unused storage space. ClosetBox's background check storage movers are licensed, bonded, and insured and will take care of all of the heavy lifting. ClosetBox's local storage centers are temperature controlled and monitored 24/7. ClosetBox has an A+ rating from the BBB. Call 877-233-5696 now for the season's best rates. Get $50 off first month storage using code RADIO50. That's 877-233-5696. 7-233-5696.
Now, the NIL jersey lineup for your Fighting Illini. Number 55, Sky Clark. Number 15, R.J. Melendez. Number 10, Luke Goody. Number 20, Ty Rogers. Number 0, Terrence Shannon Jr. And number 33, Coleman Hawkins. Get yours at State Farm Center on game day, online or in stores. Game Day Spirit, official fan store of the Fighting Illini.
If you want a steak, I mean a steak, prepared the way you want it, you've got to go to Long Branch Steakhouse. Hi, it's Jay Lehman. It's been over a year since I was introduced to Donnie at the Long Branch Steakhouse in Gifford. And when I want a great steak, that's where I go. And the sides, the Brussels sprouts, the mac and cheese, and the salad with Donnie's secret frog dressing. Long Branch Steakhouse in downtown Gifford. Open Wednesday through Saturday from 5 to 9 p.m. There's always room for the Long Branch Steakhouse.
Crossroads Contractor Supply, bringing us our Stevie J Broadcasting Law Enforcement Official of the Month.
Patrol Lieutenant, Champaign County Sheriff's Department, our Law Enforcement Official of the Month, Tony Shaw. How hard is it to have people be negative toward you?
Absolutely. It's frustrating just because I know the character of the officers and the deputies and how dedicated they are to the citizens of Champaign County. But segments like this, and when Ferguson was happening and the Champaign County Fair, I had a lot of people come up to us, thank us for our service. And this past Champaign County Fair, the same thing. So in a sense, you get people that support you, are more vocal, maybe don't have the same platform, but are more vocal coming up to us and letting us know that they do support us. And so that's encouraging. So I'm hopeful, I'm encouraged, I'm a glasses half full kind of guy. And so I see nothing but a brighter future.
Crossroads Contractor Supply, delivering within a 150-mile radius of Champaign-Urbana, supporting our Law Enforcement Official of the Month.
Hey, Illini fans, it's Mike Greenberg. Catch Lon, Tay, and Derek Piper weekdays from 4 to 6 right here on ESPN Radio 93.5.
The fans not want him out there, Courtney. You can even tell that the players are like, dude, this is not for you. And when you draft a guy that high and he looks like this in year 2, and Courtney, before the season started, I said, if we're having the same questions about Zach Wilson, then what are the about this in year 3, which means that the New York Jets have a lot to deal with and a lot to talk about because you have to keep them.
And I guess it's a good thing that you know now. You have 2 more games against Seattle and Miami to end the season. They're not going to the playoffs. They can already start focusing on how do we salvage this? What is our plan at quarterback in 2023? So I doubt that they'll end up drafting somebody because they've got other needs, and they're not going to have that high of a draft pick where they're going to be getting one of the top quarterbacks, a Bryce Young, a CJ Stroud, and they were already in that position 2 years ago. You cannot go back to the well on that, but you will have a quarterback competition in training camp.
Yo, Pablo Torre here, host of the ESPN Daily Podcast. When you want to go beyond your feed, when you want to get inside the score, when you want to get behind the highlight, there's ESPN Daily. Go deeper into the stories of the moment. Get the exclusive access and insider perspective that only ESPN can give you. ESPN Daily, hosted by me, Pablo Torre. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
At Lowe's, every pro is an MVP to us. That's why MVP's Pro Rewards members can earn bonus points on select products and brands like Power Pro, Weha, and Valspar. Then redeem your bonus points for exciting rewards like tools, sports memorabilia, Lowe's e-gift cards, and more. Join Lowe's MVP's Pro Rewards today to start earning. Bonus points calculated before taxes and fees after applicable discounts, if any. Subject to program terms. While supplies last. Points expire at end of calendar year. Visit Lowe's.com/L/Pro Loyalty terms for details. Now through 1/8/23.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. Lakers forward Anthony Davis will miss his 4th game in a row tonight against the Hornets, and the team says Davis will be out indefinitely with a stress injury in his right foot. He'll be evaluated again after New Year's Day. Rams defensive lineman Aaron Donald out for Sunday's game against the Broncos and likely won't play again this season with a high ankle sprain. The Cowboys host the Eagles tomorrow, and ESPN's Ryan Clark believes the Cowboys' success shouldn't be all about Dak Prescott.
This team should be Tony Pollard, Ezekiel Elliott, and then you allow Dak Prescott to play off of that.
Dak Prescott.
This team should be run through Tony Pollard. This team should be run through Ezekiel Elliott. And then you allow Dak Prescott to play off of that because no matter what, even with CeeDee Lamb being a Pro Bowler, this is still a team that doesn't have a lot of skill players on the outside.
Ryan Clark on Get Up. ESPN's Jeff Passan reports the Blue Jays and Diamondbacks are working on a trade.
Some coverage selections not available in all situations.
It's the airing of Christmas and sports grievances here on ESPN Radio. But normally, Canty and Carlin. It's the airing of Christmas and sports grievances here on ESPN Radio. But normally, Canty and Carlin. It is Peter Burns and Drew Carter. You can give us a call on the Dr. Pepper call-in line. You've got something to get off your chest. 888-SAY-ESPN. 888-729-3776. Of course, ESPN Radio always presented by Progressive Insurance. Insurance for motorcycles, boats, and RVs for protection on the road. Legitimately playing the role of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. The guy that's going to save the day, save the franchise, is that man, Trevor Lawrence. I'm all in for it. I'm all like, he even had the red nose last night. I'm all Rudolph is going to be my Trevor Lawrence. He's like, the Jags are actually kind of a fun team. And it's like, as soon as all of a sudden that Urban left, it felt like it just freed everything for that organization.
Right. He was like, Urban Meyer was like the ghost of Christmas past for the Jags, where, aside from the odd year here and there, they were a pretty down-in-the-dumps franchise. So I like that pick. For my Rudolph, I'm going Geno Smith.
Ooh.
All of the other reindeer used to laugh and call him names, right? They never let old Geno join in any reindeer games. As Geno says, they wrote me off, but I didn't write back. And speaking of the Jets and quarterbacks, we've done that a lot today. Geno Smith was another guy who fell victim to the Jets and the New York media machine. And now he's in Seattle, and Seattle orchestrated one of the great heists of all time.
It's unreal.
With that Russell Wilson trade, because they got an upgraded quarterback and a bunch of picks and got rid of a terrible contract, and it seems like the vibes are the guy is lit up and
guy? I don't know. How about the Grinch? If we're casting characters right now, who leads the way for the Grinch?
Now, I was tempted to say Dan Snyder because the Washington owner is about as nasty as it gets. It seems like he steals Christmas from Washington fans every year. But sticking with the Geno Smith theme, I'm going with John Schneider, the Seahawks GM, because he stole Christmas from Denver. Now, if you're a Broncos fan, you're not celebrating Christmas. You are miserable. All you want is Russell Wilson and some presents under the tree. Instead, you got a big fat lump of coal, and you have to pay for it for the next 4 years.
I'm going to go a different way for my Grinch if we're casting this. I'm going to say it's Aaron Rodgers. Because Aaron just kind of seems like the kind of person that would just ruin Christmas for people in just many different ways. But also because I think he ruins it for the Miami Dolphins this week, right? The Dolphins got to win at least the last 3 games, if not 2 of their last 3, to become a playoff team. And I think this would be very Aaron Rodgers-ish, that the Packers, with a very outside shot of getting in, goes down to Miami, has a monster game, and just ruins it. Ruins it for Tua, ruins it for a Dolphins team that got off to a hot start and ended up kind of collapsing a little bit at the end. So to me, my Aaron Rodgers, or my Grinch, is going to be Aaron Rodgers. So you've got a couple of Seahawks. Do you have any characters not Seahawks
I do.
in this list?
I do. Hey, listen, we went Rudolph, Grinch, my 2 Seahawk picks. Does the Grinch like ayahuasca? Is that why you went with Aaron Rodgers there?
I think you would see the Grinch if you took that. I got to be honest with you. You would probably see the Grinch. Ebenezer Scrooge is
Ebenezer Scrooge. This was the easiest one for me. It was the first one I filled out in my cast list. I went to Syracuse University, where the basketball coach is a man by the name of Jim Boeheim, who is as Scroogey as Scroogey gets. After pretty much every game, the post-game press conference starts with bah humbug in as many words. So Boeheim's my Ebenezer. Who you got?
Did you see Tom Izzo getting a technical yesterday with a holiday sweater? It was awesome.
What?
It was great.
Just for wearing the hot sweater?
No, he lost his mind, but it was just hilarious because he had this like joy is the world and all like this positive message, and it's like a holiday sweater, and he's just ripping the referees. I was like, tis the season for technicals. Daniel is my Ebenezer. I want to say that. And he's just ripping the referees. I was like, tis the season for technicals. Daniel Snyder is the one who gets my Ebenezer Scrooge.
Yeah,
and the reason why I say that is low-key this week, the Commanders put out the video of the young man that made the All-Pro, Jeremy. Gosh, I remember his last name. The guy, the video that came out of Ron Rivera talking about all the players making the Pro Bowl. And he made it as a special teams player, kid from South Alabama. And I started looking at that video along with Ron Rivera and thought, because Daniel Snyder has been there, Jeremy Reeves, by the way, thank you for the name. Like, he's been there so long, it's kind of just crushed that team. And Heineke's well liked, right? Chase Young, I think, can be a star. There's Ron Rivera. People like him and what he's had to battle. That if you got rid of him, and I think there's definitely momentum that way as offers go up. I think that low key would be a liked team. That people would kind of pull for them, going, all right, now I can see clearly now that the rain is gone there in Washington.
Brian Robinson too. What an amazing story this year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're right. It is a very likable team, and I think a likable franchise whose fans deserve way better. Also, how about give them a real stadium that's actually in the DMV? Then maybe you could get some fans. Dude, it's like everything that organization does from the top is wrong. And, I mean, look at the Sean Taylor statue this year. It's like, what are we doing? I mean, it's one of the best players in your franchise history, gone way too soon. And you make him like a wire mannequin. It's so bad. Everything they do is so bad. So I think
that was the biggest deal when I went from covering collegiate sports to living in Denver. Is I automatically thought when you were going to cover professional sports, you're going to cover the NFL, especially that way. And this is not necessarily a knock to the Denver Broncos, but it was also just NFL in general. I thought that they would be more professional and buttoned up, and I realized actually on the collegiate level there was.
That's Russell Wilson. For the folks who have never seen National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, Cousin Eddie shows up unannounced, uninvited. He wreaks havoc. He creates a mess. He dumps sewage everywhere. And for a large portion of the movie, sort of ruins Christmas for our main character, Clark Griswold. That's Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, nobody wants him there. He shows up, unannounced, uninvited. He ruins it. He spews a bunch of crap everywhere, and he basically ruins the season. So Russell Wilson is my Cousin Eddie.
And yet another Seattle connection here by Drew Carter. The only one I got for Cousin Eddie was my boy Dan Mullen, one of my good friends. Because if you go back and look at Dan Mullen and Cousin Eddie, you're not able to unsee it. And I love you, Dan. We'll talk to you in the family soon. He's Drew Carter. I'm Peter Burns. We'll have our Santa thoughts in
See.
Nobody protects you from mayhem like Allstate. I'm your friend's lucky jersey that's never been washed. And I'm stanking up the back seat, overpowering all of your senses, so you don't see the brake lights up ahead. And if you have cut rate car insurance, you're going to be all out of luck. So switch to Allstate, save $744, and get protected from mayhem like me.
Average annual savings of new customers surveyed in 2021 who reported auto savings when switching to Allstate. In most states, prices vary based on how you buy. Subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
CSX, a growing Fortune 500 logistics company, has immediate openings for freight train conductors. If you're looking for a rewarding career offering paid training at nearly $25 per hour, competitive benefits, and you share a passion for great service, apply today at csx.com/careers. That's csx.com/careers. CSX, committed to supporting military and veteran families and their communities. CSX is an equal opportunity employer.
This is Greeny with Mike Greenberg.
The Live guys will be at Augusta. I'm so torn on this. And if you listen to me and you've paid attention to me for years, you know golf is my favorite sport. I love it. And what has happened to the sport this year has broken my heart. I hate it. I hate it. And it just kills me to see thing being ripped. It feels like, you know, that sound that it makes. You know, when something is put together, it goes like that. That's what has happened to golf. If and when it gets put back together again, it's going to take a very, very long time. And the Masters could certainly have made an extremely strong statement by not inviting those players to come. I'm not here to tell them what they should and shouldn't do, and I certainly understand Nuno's perspective that you want to see the best players and you want to see the drama. One way or another, I think it's an extremely important decision as that story continues to develop.
Greeny with Mike Greenberg. Weekday mornings at 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio. Plus, you can watch and listen on the ESPN app.
I was here, and then I wasn't here.
FX presents the original series Kindred, only on Hulu.
The year. Tell me the year.
since 1815. Based on Octavia E. Butler's best-selling novel.
Started yesterday. The time traveling. I was on the plantation. My mother is alive. She's been stuck there. Am I crazy?
You're not crazy. Whatever this is, it's real.
FX's Kindred. All episodes now streaming.
Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max.
Bill Parcells would say this to me, Herm, all the time about guys. He would point to a guy, you know how coaches point to a guy on the practice field, go over there and tell a player, say, see this guy right here? Always something with him. It's just always something. Nothing good happens for him. He's right there, fumble, but the other guy dives in front of him. The ball thrown right to him, he drops it. Interception, pick six going the other way, he can't hold on to it. Always something. And that's kind of Anthony Davis. It's just always something.
I'm a Laker fan. This is hard to watch, man. This is hard to watch.
Yeah, I think he's injured, though, Coach.
I hope he is. So you're saying he's Dr. Cotton?
What is Dr. Cotton, for those who don't know? I want to know.
Real soft.
Just kind of always something. And he's talented. I mean, this guy has so much talent, and I've always said this. Sometimes talent can be a curse.
Key, J, and Max. Followed by Greeny. Mornings on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app.
ESPN Podcasts, no matter what you're a fan of.
Welcome into the Fantasy Focus Football Podcast.
Hollywood mogul McConaughey. This is the kind of guest you're going to get on the SV Pod.
His reputation is destroyed. I don't feel sorry for Donald Sterling.
The final question comes from Lynn.
The legend that is Adam Schefter.
It's Julie Foudy. Simone Biles is in the house.
Listen to me now. Believe me later on.
This has been ESPN Dale. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
ESPN Podcasts. Something for everyone. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Kyle Brandt's Basement.
Gymnastics.
Podcasts.
Kyle Brandt's Basement, the podcast.
Do you have a history of gymnastics? We already talked about your youth baseball career.
Did you not know this?
Gymnastics as a kid? No, I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do it a lot, but me and my brother, we were bad kids, right? So my mom would take my sister to gymnastics, and she'd be sitting there, and we'd just be pestering each other, pestering her, pestering other kids. And my mom's like, you know what? If you guys are going to be here, you guys are going to be on that mat.
Listen to Kyle Brandt's podcast wherever you find your podcast. The Rose Bowl game on ESPN.
Feliz Navidad, no eggnog, more Kool-Aid. Oh yeah. All I really want for Christmas.
Didn't know this went that hard. Little John.
I gotta add this to my playlist. Oh my god! I'm ready for 4 more hours of radio after this.
To go. Yeah, where was this? Where was this 2 hours ago? Peter Burns, here for Ganti and Carlo on radio. You can follow us at Drudel25. When are you going to change that Twitter account, by the way? It's REWDL. Ganti and Carlo on ESPN Radio. You can follow us at Drudel25. When are you going to change that Twitter account, by the way? It's so hard. DREWDLE25. That's what are we doing here?
The problem, PB, is I've got the legacy blue check, and I can't get rid of it.
It doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter ever. You're fine.
I want the gold check.
I don't even know what that is. At Peter Burns, ESPN is mine. You can always give us a call on the Dr. Pepper calling line, 888-SAY-ESPN. We got Patriots and Bengals tomorrow. That's going to be a great one. Coverage begins noon Eastern on select ESPN radio stations. One of the games that
11-3 with a +2 point differential, which has to be some record. The Detroit Lions actually have a better point differential this season at +5. They're 7-7, and somehow in the wild card hunt, they're red hot. But the Vikings and the Giants, I mean, it's like something's got to give in the sense that one of these teams has to lose a close game, but you know it's going to be a close game because that's all these teams do is play tight ones.
It is incredible when you look at it. I mean, again, part of it is luck, but part of it is winning games. Sometimes on an organization, you win. I think the Jaguars. With how, I mean, again, part of it is luck, but part of it is winning games. Sometimes on organizations as they come, you have to learn to win. I think the Jaguars are doing that right now, right? They're learning how to win late into the season, and Trevor Lawrence is learning how to lead, and we're seeing that. A team that I can't figure out because half of our guys over at ESPN say they may be one of the more dangerous teams, but I still don't buy it are the Lions right now. They're going to be here in Charlotte taking on the Panthers. The Panthers don't have a whole heck of a lot more to play for right now, even though they're in the dismal NFC South. I know it's crazy to think about, but are you on this hype train for the Detroit Lions right now? That Dan Campbell's squad can get this done? Because I just can't get there yet.
No, and I'm with you. In terms of potentially making the playoffs, yeah, maybe. I mean, you look at fairly have the medal in close games to win enough to make the playoffs. Plus, Jared Goff, it's like the stock price.
He hasn't been throwing the interceptions. I mean, and it's not as if they're picking him either. They're letting him chunk it around. He still hasn't had I think 4 straight games. He hasn't thrown a pick.
I just don't know if I can buy stock. Like I don't know if I can jump on that. It's been like the stock has been like a negative price for basically his entire career, and now it's rising super fast. And you have a chance to get in when it's still really low. I'm still not doing it. It's like Bitcoin. I don't want.
I'll wait. I'll wait. And then you know what's going to happen? It's going to top out, and then you'll buy it at the top of the market, and then it'll slide. All right, it is time for a little 3 and out. Cam, take it away.
Sometimes it's the worst. Sometimes it's the best. Either way, we'll get you straight what you need to know. This is 3 and Out.
Quick stat correction, Jared Goff, 6 straight games without an interception. Woo! So pretty impressive stuff.
No Dak Prescott
this season. Yeah.
Selling Goff
7
short
picks in 4 games. All right, guys, we had Joe Thomas, the future Hall of Famer, on earlier today, channeling a late NFL legend. Listen to this.
And now I got the answer. Boom. The ball is coming out on time.
Peter, did that not sound like John Madden to you?
Give it to me one more time now that I know that's John Madden that we were talking to, not Joe Thomas.
And now I got the answer. Boom. The ball is coming out on time.
Talk about one of my favorite Christmas gifts. I got the John Madden football game. That was like the first computer game that you had that you could actually design plays. Oh,
right.
Boom. It's great.
You fired that one up on your computer that filled up the entire room?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like a 286 with like an EGA monitor, like old school computer geeks know exactly what I'm talking about back then. That and Earl Weaver baseball. Earl Weaver baseball. Earl Weaver baseball, you would be down in the game, and you could ask Earl Weaver advice, like with F7 on the keyboard, and Earl's like, well, you're down 4. You can't score them all unless you got...
All days stickball.
Like, well, you're down 4. You can't score them all unless you got players on base. Take a pitch.
How about Abner Doubleday's stickball?
Yeah. Naismith's round ball versus Jordan.
That was
EA Sports.
That was good stuff from Joe Thomas. I was more interested in the Beaver conversation with Joe Thomas, but the Madden part was fun.
And now I got the answer. Boom. Boom. The ball is coming out on time.
All right, how about this, guys? The 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception today. Drew, the Steelers Twitter account tweeting as if the game was live. Of course, the late, great Franco Harris passed a few days ago. So in honor of Franco, live tweeting the Immaculate Reception 50 years ago. You like this?
Yeah, I was confused by it when I opened Twitter. I'm like,
and this has been a fantastic day on Canty and Carlin.
This has been a lot of fun, PB. Thanks for making me feel at home. Listen to some Christmas music, please. You'll warm up to it. It's okay.
As long as you agree to change your Twitter account from Brutal25. You can follow me on Twitter at Peter Burns ESPN. Hey, seriously, we love you. Thanks for listening to us on ESPN Radio. Have a happy holidays and a Merry Christmas. Here from Drew Carter, Peter Burns here on Canty and Carlin on ESPN Radio.
With other lenders, it can feel like they're calling the wrong plays. Not Cross Country Mortgage. They're the masterminds behind perfect play calling. Go with them and your home loan experience will end in a victory for the perfect free agent to sign with the best loan originators in the game. And Cross Country Mortgage is dedicated to getting it done. Reach out today at ccm.com. That's ccm.com.
Equal housing opportunity. All loans subject to underwriting approval. Cross Country Mortgage LLC. NMLS 3029. NMLSConsumerAccess.org.
So I switched to Boost Mobile and got this free Samsung phone.
Why do you think they call it the Galaxy?
Maybe because the Samsung Galaxy A20 has a screen, and galaxies are gravitational. So I switched to Boost Mobile and got this free Samsung Galaxy A23 5G phone.
Why do you think they call it the Galaxy?
Maybe because the Samsung Galaxy A23 has a huge screen, and galaxies are huge.
Happy holidays, a happy holiday, and a happy new year.
Covered Georgia in the college football playoff semifinal at the Peach Bowl. Start your New Year's Eve at 9 a.m. with Marty and McGee, followed by SEC Nation. Then experience the Peach Bowl through Georgia's hometown radio call. And finally, wrap it all up with SEC football finals. All-day coverage starts December 31st at 9 a.m. Eastern on SEC Network and streaming live on the ESPN app.
Greeny. Everything is part of the problem in Tampa, including him. He's not the worst player on their team, but he's no longer the best either. And I don't know who is because they're so bad. They're unwatchable.
Weekday mornings at 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio. ESPN Radio Sports Beat with Jason Fitz.
Cool. So the Jets blew it and Zach Wilson sucks. We know that, and we've been talking about it all year. But the fact is, what's the larger lesson here? Now, getting it wrong at the quarterback position happens. And it happens to most teams. But that's what we need to focus on. There's a couple of different sides to this. Number one, did he get the right coaching? Are the right people around him to help make him great? Number two, is there a lesson to be learned in reaching for a quarterback because of a pro day? One of the things that really shook me to my core, I started covering a lot of college football for this college football expert that said every year when you cover the draft, you'll be shocked by how many people don't watch college football that cover the draft for the NFL. I laughed at the time and I thought that's impossible. But then you hear about workout warriors and you start thinking about what that means. Well, realistically, at some point, you can't fall in love with any one particular prospect because of what they do on a pro day above and beyond what you've seen them do on film. Most people I know that covered BYU and that covered Zach Wilson saw this coming. The question is, why didn't the Jets, and what lesson can all of us learn about that? In 60 seconds, how that applies to this year's draft.
Yo, Pablo Torre here, host of the ESPN Daily Podcast. When you want to go beyond you want to get inside the door. When you want to get behind the
starting trouble. No one likes that. We'll get you set up for some stronger starts. You might just need a fresh charge, and we'll take care of that free of charge. But if it is time for a new battery, we've got replacement batteries that'll fit your needs, starting at just $79.99. You can learn more about our battery selection at AutoZone.com. That's what makes us America's #1 battery destination.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Claim based on data from the NPD Group 2021.
Boy, there's nobody in my mind that's going to rise faster on draft boards than Will Levis, already rising, the quarterback out of Kentucky. And he's had some really good moments. And certainly he's going to, at his pro day, be more athletic than anybody thinks. He's going to be faster than anybody thinks. And people are going to fall in love with him. Where does that lie, though, when you're starting to weigh that versus the tape? Versus seeing him throw into double coverage against bad SEC teams in decisions that cost Kentucky in their games. How do you weigh that? See, it's not about getting it wrong at the quarterback position that I fault. It's using the wrong metrics in making your quarterback decision that is something that should get people fired. With the ESPN Radio Sports Beat from Fitz and Harry.
You're listening to WSJK ESPN 93.5 Tuscola, Champaign-Urbana, your home for the St. Louis Cardinals.